Hi there, welcome to the Creative Astrology Podcast. Thank you for being here. I am Vanessa Castro, the astrologer behind Creative Astrology, and I will be sharing with you today my thoughts around the new moon in Capricorn. And I just want you to know a few things before we get started. I'm going to leave some links below. If you liked this episode, please feel free to sign up for my newsletter. You can also follow me on social media. I am especially active on Instagram. These episodes are also published on various platforms, and I will leave the links below for you to go and check that out. And also, I have recently created a calendar for the year 2026. It contains the most important information with a lot of explanations and keywords and what everything means, so that you can pretty much, get a vibe yourself by looking at it and following the guidelines. It is a very colorful and color-coded calendar, so that you get a vibe of the energy of the month at a glance. I am currently developing the guide for 2026 as well. It'll come with it as soon as it's ready. I will send it to every single one of you who has gotten the Cosmic Calendar 2026. So yes, I will leave those links below as well, and I will leave you with the episode today. Thank you so much for being here, and happy new moon. I invite you to take a deep breath with me right now. So let's take a deep breath together. So inhale, and now exhale. You feel that? So it's that space, that pause right before the inhale, right before things start taking speed and shape and direction. And there's that on the one side, but there's much more to this. In the month of January 2026, I wrote, it's a very focused seeding moment of structures, alignment with purpose and integrity, and vision and mission to be developed. 2026, as I have told you guys before, it brings energies that were previewed or sampled or initially experienced as a first time, or as a almost like a test drive. In 2025, we had the experiences of having Saturn in Aries already. We had the experience of Neptune in Aries already. And we also had the experience of Uranus in Gemini already. Yes, this is true. But they only went in for a while. Like, each of them took their own time. But it was not permanent, right? And it was not permanent. It was not meant to be like that. It's very interesting that the three of them are entering these new signs at the same time. That's like definitely something it didn't need to be like that. You know what I mean? They have their own unique cycles, and they didn't need to do this like new cycles all together. But that's what's happening, right? And that's part of the reason why this moment in history for the collective feels so intense. And this is a characteristic of the 2020s. We're already in 2026, but as we all know, 2020 already was a time of major shifts, right? We experienced a lot of things collectively that shifted a lot of structures in society, and more deeply than how things express themselves in the 3D, so to speak, or or materialize themselves. It's been a paradigmatic change, You know what I mean? A paradigm is basically is a worldview. It's a set of beliefs, and not necessarily religious beliefs. A paradigm is something I believe in, something that my mind sees as truth. And the paradigms upon which we have been operating have been dramatically shifting. There's I don't want to overwhelm, but I will. I will tell you. So what happened, something that happened, important that happened at the end of 2020 was that two planets met in Aquarius for the first time in a very long time. One of those planets is really relevant to this new moon right now, which is Saturn. So Saturn and Jupiter meet every 20 years, okay? But they met in Earth signs for 200 years. The first one that happened in air was in 1980. That was in Libra, and that was the first time that it happened in air. So what are the Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions? They basically represent our collective societal cycles of building something, bringing a vision into concrete shape. That is the combination of Jupiter and Saturn. They usually relate with cycles of contraction and expansion, like economy-wise, technological development-wise, whatever is being built. And yeah, like if we think of the Industrial Revolution, all up until now, it's been about 2 centuries. And that was Saturn and Jupiter meeting in Earth. All about capital, all about things, stuff, money, land, territory delineation, territory, what's it called? Like, for lack of a better word, I'll say conquering, because literally, right? And all for the sake of the accumulation of stuff and production. Like Industrial Revolution had to do with mass production, right? Capital, materialism at its max. And so when Jupiter and Saturn meet in Libra back in 1980, what happens is that the internet flourishes and becomes something that gradually from then, it starts becoming something that is, taken into the rest of society, like from where it started. And so these meetings of them happen every 20 years. And in the year 2020, at the very end of the year, they met in Aquarius. And the significant thing about that is that conjunction no longer will happen in Earth signs anymore. So in 1980, it was the first air conjunction. 20 years later, in the year 2000, they had the last meeting in Earth signs, which was in Taurus. And 20 years after, in 2020, they meet in air. And from now on, they will not meet in other element. They will only be building, basically, in the element of air. And if that doesn't already signify a lot, like that's one of the biggest changes astrologically of this era, of the 2020s and of this next 200 years. That is huge, guys. That is like, Massive. That is a massive, massive shift. So this already contextualizes what we are building collectively to be no longer about things, about capital, about production. Now it has to do, and it will increasingly have more to do with knowledge and communication and relationships. Imagine, like, their first meeting in air was in Libra, with the birth of the internet. And that is interconnection. Libra is the sign of relationships. And now in 2020, they met in Aquarius, which is the sign of science and technology. It's the sign of breaking the barriers and going into new frontiers. So there's many ways that this can go into, but 6 years in, now we are already seeing a lot being developed in that direction, right? And so, leaving Jupiter and Saturn aside, which by the way now are in a harmonious aspect, but they're both in water signs, which is kind of funny. Because that's not air. It has to do more with how we feel about this, right? How, it's growing into like what matters to us in a deeper level. But the air energy continues to ramp up. So that was in 2020, end of 2020, into 2021. And then the next big shift starts to happen in 2023 when Pluto goes into Aquarius. And so Pluto entering Aquarius is another huge cycle, not of 200 years, but it is 20 years. So we have Pluto in Aquarius all the way until 2043. And this is, again, a very significant change that adds to the air energy, adds to the Aquarius energy. It's the same sign also. Aquarius, the bringer of the new, the bringer of change, the bringer of things that we have not thought about. And this happens in 2023. And now we are seeing an absolute revolution when it comes to technology, right? Like, it's 2026 now. We had a whole year of ChatGPT, right? And very impressive, very, very impressive development of AI. And that has completely shifted the fabric of our society at this point. Whether we like it or we don't like it, this is here to stay. This technology is here to stay. It will not go away, whether we like it or we don't like it, because it is so tremendous. And I know that a lot of people are trying to go against it, and I see why and I understand why, and I feel that too. But this is what Aquarius is. Aquarius breaks the frontiers of what we know and takes all of the knowledge that we have, all of the evidence, all of the information. Think that Aquarius is, I know this is very much like getting away from the new moon in Capricorn, but I have a point. Aquarius takes everything that we have available, thinks with it, right? Like, takes the time to think and observe and analyze, and will say, well, this is the most logical path to follow if we want to make things more efficient, better, if we want to, gain ultimately in freedom to either be ourselves, freedom in all its shapes and forms. What can we use? How can we objectively use the information that we have to make things better for the collective and for our individual selves. And so Pluto being in Aquarius in this era, throughout the 2020s, through the 2030s, and into the 2040s, we are experiencing the power of this knowledge in all of its shapes and forms, the best ways and the worst ways, right? Because Pluto is representative of power, and it is also representative of our subconscious mind. So a lot of the fears associated with this, with this knowledge and technology, are also being experienced, right? We're feeling. With AI, it all started with like, oh, am I going to lose my job now that there's this thing, and like it can do things that I do in my job. I even thought about it at one point. I'm like, well, is my like astrological analysis even, does it even matter anymore if this thing can like collect all the information and just like give people readings? And the truth is, it's not as accurate just yet. It's not ChatGPT. It's not the best astrologer, I will say. But it'll get there. It will get there. You know, I know that. I'm very aware of that. So each of us in our own field are experiencing this. Writers, musicians, actors and actresses. Like now AI can create perfect models. Like why do you even need a real person anymore? Screenwriters, I remember they were the first ones to protest, right? And yeah, then there's the drones, then there's the technology being used for war, drones of war, right? Surveillance. There's all of this like horrific sides of the technology, and Pluto in Aquarius is that, right? There's the immense power which can be used for good or for evil. And with the current level of humanity's consciousness, sadly, we will see all of it, and we're already seeing it. It's regrettable to know that this is how it is. That I wrote an article about this when Pluto entered Aquarius. I think I wrote it back in 2022, and I remember writing about like that, like sci-fi horror movie potentially, right? And I don't mean to scare. It's just the reality. People listening, this is just the reality right now. We're 3 years into this, and it's real. It's real. It's just real. So we have that element of air now, and then the next element of air is going to be Uranus going back into Gemini. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is the planet of Aquarius, and it'll go into Gemini for good in 2026. It also dipped its toes into Gemini in 2025. It was a trial of Uranus in Gemini last year, and now it's going into Gemini for good this year. So one thing that is important that I wanted to mention about the nature of this current moment right now, about Uranus in this very current moment right now, is that Uranus is the planet of Aquarius, right? Uranus is the planet of, very similar to Aquarius, breaking the barriers of the known. And when Uranus is in a critical moment, as it is now, when it is only a couple of weeks from going direct, it's actually couple of weeks from going direct. So it's already very slowed down. It's already very intensified. And it's about to end its retrograde. And it'll end the retrograde and go full speed into Gemini. You know, from there, there's just no more going back. Uranus will not go back to Taurus anymore. It goes into Gemini on April 25th. So, yeah. And Uranus into Gemini brings even more air energy. So now we had this like 200-year cycle of air energy. We have Pluto in Aquarius, 20 years of air energy. Now Uranus goes into Gemini from now it's going to be 7 years of air energy. More and more air. Air is information, communication, technology, relationships. That's what we are, and this is the vibe right now, the overall very general vibe. Of course there's nuances. There's now a new moon in Capricorn, which is earth, but this is the context, right? This is the context that we are increasingly getting into. So the fact that Uranus, which is this like, it has this liberator energy, it has this rebel energy, it is the change bringer. It is not only the change bringer, but it is a surprising change bringer. So it's not just because, you know, Saturn can represent change, definitely. Pluto represents change. Actually, any planet in retrograde and going out of retrograde will represent some kind of change. But the Uranus nature is that of really sudden and a bit, I don't want to say, let me think of a word. It's just so sudden, right? It's just so, it takes us completely by surprise. That's the nature of Uranus. It takes us by surprise. It's unexpected. It is, it has this energy of unexpectedness. And I say that it likes to make fun of us astrologers trying to make predictions, because it's like, nope, that's not what I'm doing. I'll do something else even more surprising. So I've read several astrologers write how, like, yeah, expected unexpected with Uranus. And so when Uranus is like ending the retrograde and about to go direct, its change and surprising energy is enhanced. So that is something that is a part of this new moon in Capricorn right now. Also, the new moon is it's in contact with Uranus at the end of Taurus. The new moon is at the end of Capricorn, the both earth signs. So what's going on here is somehow related. Oh, the moon just went into Aquarius, by the way, as I speak. This is somehow related with these shifts that are happening in the more concrete areas of our life and society, the revolutions that we are seeing. And a note on this, the revolutions that are happening in the world right now, the many changes that there seems to be something happening all the time these days, like all the time. Something is blowing up in some part of the world. These things that are happening, they've been waiting to happen. They have been waiting to happen. Like, it's not pretty. It's not. It's awful, but it's change. Uranus, Aquarius, right? It's new ideas, air energy. It's revolutions that have been necessary. And that is why they've become so visible to us right now. That's why they are so present to us right now. It's like all of these different countries that are going through immense changes. I don't want to like start pinpointing because, you know, you all know already. You all know what I'm talking about. You all know the multiple areas, the multiple fires that are occurring in the world right now. Some literal fires happening in Chile, by the way, right now. And which is my home country, which is why I name it. But we all know there's several fires happening. And what is happening, like if I like to bring a different perspective. I like to bring a different point of view. You may agree with me or not. I don't care. the perspective that I bring is that these situations have been in need to blow up. They have been waiting to blow up for way too long, whether that is through the starkness of certain leaders, certain leaders of the world, political leaders, which is like not an actual leader to me, but seeing them in their extreme behaviors and seeing them and seeing how they trigger the collective with their extreme behaviors, and the collective responds in different ways, sometimes in really opposite ways to that extreme behavior. This visibility is what has been needed for us to revolt, for the people to revolt and react and say, this is not okay. And that's what revolutions are. That's what happens when we have this type of energy, this Aquarius energy that we are like inevitably immersed in for all the way into the 2040s. We can't escape the Aquarius energy right now. No matter what new moon is happening, this is the context. And let's add more information to this right now. Going back to the new moon. The new moon is in Capricorn. We just had a new moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn right now is at the very end of Pisces, just like Uranus, about to go into a new sign. Just like Neptune, about to go into a new sign. Actually, Saturn and Neptune are really close to one another right now at the very end of Pisces. They are both going into Aries very soon. Actually, next week. Next week, Neptune goes into Aries. I can't believe how close this is right now. But this makes sense. And Saturn goes right after, only a couple weeks after, on less than a month. Saturn also goes into Aries. So what this means is that this new moon right now, this new moon in Capricorn right now, ruled by that Saturn at the very, very tail end of the very, very last sign of the zodiac, guys. This is massive. This is also massive. I am not a sensationalist astrologer at all. I hate that. Seriously. I'm like clickbait. I have yeah. My entire being reacts in the worst ways. I can't stand it. Okay. Because I think that does not help at all. Okay. But astrologers right now are not being, not all of them at least, but we're not being really sensationalist. This is actually, as I'm trying to contextualize for you, this is actually quite a momentous time in history. So Pisces is the last sign. So literally we will not have, these two planets are ending in the next 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to be in a completely different scenario. And that's meaningful for this new moon. Why? Because Capricorn is about purpose. Capricorn is about purpose, integrity, mission. What am I doing here? And this, if you think like me, it is you who I am talking to. Okay, I am talking to people who are not just living their day-to-day without questioning. I talk to people who do question what you're doing with your life. Do question themselves. Not in a like, not in a way that is disempowering. It is a bit destabilizing to question what you're doing with your life. But it is so important, because you don't want to get to the very end of your life and regret that you did not do this or that more than anything. You know, old people do say that. I wish I had blah, blah, blah. Now I've come to the end of my life and, well, that's it. That is the nature of Saturnian and Capricornian energy. As the god of time in Greek mythology, Saturn is kind of like a no BS and no mercy type of energy. It's also sometimes called the Lord of Karma because of that. Because it's like, well, this is what you have chosen to do with your time. This is the results that you get from using your time in this way. And I'm not saying this from a place of like, oh, I have made the best use of my time. And I've always known what to do with my life. No, like 1,000 times no. I come to say this precisely because I've been deep into that questioning for so long. And I've said this many, many times in different contexts. The answers are never clear, but what matters is to have meaningful questions in your life. So this is one of the most meaningful questions you can have. What am I doing with my time? What am I doing in my day-to-day? Tick-tock. It does not come back. It doesn't. So if you are, working a job, which we all have done, I'm not condemning that. But if you are working a job that sure is like keeping you safe, whatever, is paying your bills, but you know deep down that there is something else calling you, that has been calling you, and you've shut it down because you don't want to feel the discomfort of having to go into the unknown, of having to be perhaps feel ridiculous because you're trying something new, or feel the fear of uncertainty. Well, let me tell you that there is nothing certain in life other than what you know is true for you. That's the only certainty that you have. Your job is not certain. Your salary is not certain. Your pension is not certain. It just seems like it is, because that's how these systems were built. And again, remember what I started talking about at the beginning. Saturn, Jupiter conjunctions were on Earth for 200 years. Now they're not anymore. We've entered the air era. What air brings to the table is the destabilization. Imagine wind blowing, right? Shaking the trees. Some trees will be strong enough and they will stay because their roots are deep. What that means is that they're rooted in something meaningful. The trees that are able to withstand the wind have meaningful roots. But any structure that isn't deep enough will fall. Will fall, whether it's now or a few years down the road. Again, what does it look like for you to live a purposeful, meaningful life? I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want you to waste your time in this life and go all the way to the end of your life, whenever that comes, and you regret not having done XYZ. And we all have a different calling. And I think that is why I do this work, to help you figure out what that is. Because to me, there is just nothing more important in this life than people doing what they were meant to do all along. And a lot of the times that takes us going all the way back into our childhood memories and remember what we really felt mattered to us. You know? Sometimes it's the struggles that we have in life that show us, oh my God, there is a need here. I needed some sort of support and I wish someone would have given that to me. So I'll create it, or I'll do that, or I'll learn this. You know, everyone has a different calling. So this new moon in Capricorn is about that. It's connected to Pluto in Aquarius. It's connected to Uranus finishing its retrograde. So it's somehow related to the larger picture of things that involves the collective. And it somehow is connected to the end of a previous era. So it's a new moon that is bridging us. It's bridging us between what was and what is about to be developed and fleshed out. And only we know internally, because new moons have that quality. New moons are moments of planting a seed, yes, of a new beginning, yes. But that new beginning is not shown. It's full moons that show. Full moons are the ones that illuminate. It's like the moon is now complete, right? And that the full moon, by the way, Capricorn, is going to be at the end of June, on June 29th. And so what is that meaningful purpose for you? This is really important. And for some, this may feel like a very clear moment, because actually we're in the middle of the story here. We already tested the newness, the new waters. We tested them in 2025. And it's very likely that those things are not going to be exactly how they develop in 2026. It's almost like it was like a trial, just a test run that may have been really flawed, actually, or not necessarily flawed, but just kind of like not quite it, not there, like almost like close, but almost kind of thing. and so this is that moment of refinement where you internally realize what definitely is just not aligning anymore, what isn't. And the reason I say that is because as Saturn is at the very end of Pisces with Neptune, what that means is that this new moon at this moment is inviting us to shed, you know, even though it's a new beginning, it's a new moon, it is inviting you to enter that space of clarity where you're aware of what no longer fits. You know, Pisces is the sign of surrendering, of letting go. It's the end. Pisces is the end of the entire zodiac wheel. It's right at the end. It's the end of winter. It's right before spring equinox. So Pisces is that moment of, you know what? All of these things, these structures, sometimes it's not like literally the job, you know, please don't let that idea haunt you. It's not like I'm telling you, you know, leave your job. Don't do like this. I am just trying to bring clarity here, but it can also just be like ways, you know, ways we have been doing things, or structural things such as paradigms, like I said before, paradigms. It's like my mindset, how I believe things to be, what I believe is the way of doing things. And maybe that way of doing things is completely obsolete by now, and you do need to let it go. And maybe that doesn't mean complete like overhaul of life, but just like operate from a different mindset, right? And that can also, if like, for example, you're a Cancer rising and Capricorn is your area of relationships, then it might be connected to the ways that you have been operating in the sense of how you're relating, right? It could also be that, or it could be a structure or a relational dynamic within your family. There's just so many ways that this can play out, right? But you know much more than any astrologer. What I offer and what astrologers offer you are lenses to see your own life with a bit more clarity. It's like I'm giving you these glasses and I'm telling you, look, these are the dynamics that are playing out cosmically, but you need to see how they apply in your life. And of course, a natal chart reading can give you a lot more clarity. Or if you know about your chart, if you know about your houses, if you know your stuff, then you can also have a more clear glance at what is becoming evident in your life, right? But it really depends for each and every one of us. Ultimately, Capricorn is about integrity and alignment in a very, very meaningful way. And yes, I think that that's the most important thing about this new moon. What I said also about these other 4 planets that I mentioned at the beginning, or maybe I cut that part out. I don't know. I'm going to make a few edits to this because at the beginning it was a bit, it's a bit clunky at the beginning when I started recording this. So there's some edits that are going to happen. But yes, there is Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Pluto are all very, 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 very close to the new moon, like so close to it. So it does feel like a really big reset moment in so many levels. Motivation wise, plans and ideas wise. So that motivation wise is Mars, ideas is Mercury. Venus would be relationship wise, and Venus is actually getting really, really close to Pluto now. So there can be some relational transformations happening right now for you or for the collective in terms of alliances and the ways that, the collaborations that are happening on a collective level. Some kind of transformation there, or truths popping up really, really strongly. Sometimes it does have to do with other people and our relationships. I would say, especially if you're a Leo rising, for example, because this is happening in Aquarius. So Aquarius is your area of relationships. And it also can be related to just like self-appreciation and self-love. So on top of there being this, end of Pisces vibe, which is like so end of an era, like you gotta remember Saturn takes about 30 years to go all around the zodiac, and it's not going to be back in Pisces in about 27 years. So it is kind of like being the last sign of the zodiac. It's like an absolute ending, right? Of like also, again, decades. And within this context, we have Venus meeting Pluto. So this is, I guess it's like a whole other topic at the end of this episode. It's a bit much, but just like, keep in mind, Venus-Pluto combinations can be very revealing. In the realm of love, what we love, what we appreciate within ourselves, about others, and in general. Some kind of important revelation can be happening in this realm. Anyway, to sum it up, just remember, this new moon is about integrity. This new moon is about finding deeper meaning. And yes, I'm wishing you all a beautiful new moon. I did send out a newsletter. Remember, if you find this podcast and you liked it, I'll leave some links below. Also, yes, I'll make some announcements at the beginning of the podcast, so I won't repeat myself too much. But yes, I have a cosmic calendar for this year where you can see all of the things that are happening throughout the year, and a guide for the year is being developed. It goes alongside with it. So yes, I'm writing the guide still because I didn't actually plan to do that, and then I realized that people needed it, so that's why I'm so late with it, because it was not in my initial plans. So it's been kind of like, when do I do this? And it's turned out to be a lot more than I expected it to be. But it is coming. It is coming. And in the meantime, I will make sure to keep you all updated through my newsletter and my posts on social media and these podcasts that I am to do as frequently as possible. So yes, thank you for tuning in. And happy new moon in Capricorn. Wishing you all the very best.